Hello and welcome to this COMP3218 game design and development video from the University of Southampton. My name is Tom Blount, I'm one of the lecturers on the course, and today I am joined by...
My name's Dan Hobson, I'm a demonstrator on the course.
Excellent. So we're going to be looking through some of our students' first set of courseworks. This year they're mostly been done in groups of 3, although we do have a few smaller groups, so we'll be taking that into account as we go through this. Dan, could you tell us a little bit about what we asked the students to do for this coursework?
Yeah, absolutely. So the key thing here is that we want to see games with a clear core dynamic. And also we want to see that the games have some sort of tutorial implementation. Maybe you learn the game as you're playing it.
Fantastic. So without further ado, let's take a look at our first game. All right, and our first game for this batch is Pixel Bullet Night. So we've got a title screen. It's a relatively straightforward one, but you know they've done something. It's not the default white Unity font, so they've even got a settings menu, volume and BGM, background music. Yeah. All right, let's hit play. Ooh.
Right.
We've got some sort of. I'm getting like Slay the Spire, Faster Than Light, sort of roguelike map vibes.
This makes sense. It's maybe a little overwhelming as the very first thing you dropped into, but yeah, okay, we can start on the left and then we go to the right across many options of choices.
I don't think it scrolls, so we can't see where we're going, but that's okay. Oh, that was a lot of stuff on the text all at once.
Did you memorize all that in that half second?
It's all right. I think it is just... I think we're about to walk through it slowly. So we didn't have to memorize it. So we've got health at the top, stamina, WASD, and then, yeah, WASD to control movement.
There we go.
And then they go into even more detail of W is up, S down, A left.
Yeah.
All good. So if we walk around here, spacebar to dodge.
Okay, yep. What are we going to
dodge roll? Be nice if again there was a reason to dodge, like an electric field that we had to dodge through to prove that we've understood we know how to dodge. But that's okay. We'll remember it. Press G to start a battle. Okay.
Is that going to spawn some enemies, or is it going to teleport you to somewhere else?
Well, it doesn't seem to have done anything. So.
Okay. So this is you have to walk up to someone and then shout G in their face?
In which case, again, like it'd be very nice if there was something here where we could try it out and see how it works, and they know that we know how it works before we move on to the next step of the tutorial. Because now I'm going to have to remember that it's G to start a battle, but I don't know when I'm supposed to press. Okay, so mouse to scroll weapons.
Sure.
Okay, I've only got the one weapon at the minute, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have a target dummy, so I can shoot that and I get some numbers. Ooh, I do between 10 and sometimes I do 15 damage. I don't know why I sometimes do 15, but okay, cool, nice. We've got that.
And doing G, can you go and shout G at him? Does that do anything?
It does not.
No, okay.
Okay, but worth checking. Step on the button to start your adventure.
I think, yeah, start probably. Unless you've shot the S and it's exploded.
No, pressing G on it doesn't do anything.
G, shout at the button?
No, I can't dodge roll on the button. Or do I dodge?
Okay.
I dodge in the direction my weapon's pointing. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So I will pull back the curtain a little bit and tell you I tried this before we started recording to figure out what would happen, and I couldn't get past this point, so I started pressing random buttons, and one of the random buttons did progress the game, but I can't remember what button it
reset?
was. Maybe. Let's try that. R, no. T, no. Y, no. U. Let's keep going. Ooh, P, apparently.
P gets you to progression track?
Maybe it's the pause menu, and from there we can... I don't know, but okay. P gets us to the next bit. So we've got... Do you want to go to swords, axe, or swords?
Does this imply axes are more scary and swords are like regular combat, axes are deadly combat?
See, that was my assumption as well. And the fact that we both assumed the same thing means this isn't necessarily as unparsable as I first thought.
Yeah.
And we do
Only
seem
because we assume a game like this has different kinds of combat, and whichever one is the scary one is going to be less frequent.
yeah.
It would be nice if it was one sword and two swords or something slightly.
Yeah, exactly what I was about to say. Also I'm getting hung up a little bit on the information design here. All of these paths crisscrossing is quite difficult to pass. So either you would need some kind of highlighting when you mouse over a symbol, or you would want to structure your paths so that they don't cross over quite as much. Because I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to go for the swords rather than the axe. But which swords do I go for? This one seems to link. This sword's only links to the campfire. This one goes to a question mark or a campfire or a campfire. So this one will give me more options. Let's go for that.
Yeah, that's what I was noticing. Basically, you can get from anywhere to anywhere, which makes the progressions slightly less interesting choices. But I guess we'll come back to that as we go through it.
Here we are.
You can certainly run around a room.
Yep.
Do you
remember how we start a battle?
You shout G at someone.
We press G. There we go. That starts the battle. So kind of interesting that you also notice we start with our gun holstered, which confused me when I was testing this out because I couldn't remember how to.
Right, you need to switch weapons from the no weapon to the actually has a weapon.
Yeah. So again, like in a way, they've made some interesting choices to, like, you know, make sure you're not immediately overwhelmed when you jump into a room. But I think a combination of just starting with your weapon unholstered and then just starting the battle would take away the need for a lot of, you know, having to press G to start. Like it's not like there's anything you can do to prepare yet. Maybe later on we'll unlock, you know, landmines or traps or something.
Yeah, it's certainly true. You know, you could have G pulling double duty there. G is just the get your gun out, and when you get your gun out, things automatically spawn for you.
Yeah, even that would work.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at dodging these things.
There are certainly a few different enemy sprites. So we discovered it looks maybe like the things with wings when you shoot them aren't taking damage, or maybe sometimes they're taking damage.
I think they're just not disappearing when they die. Because you'll notice they sort of stick around, but then we start a new round once they're all once they stop taking damage. So a slight visual bug perhaps, but not the end of the world. Might be the end of the world when I can't remember which ones are dead and which ones aren't. I'm not doing great at this point. And this is the first level, bear in mind.
This is the first level.
We've got so many more swords to get through. Maybe axe was the easier one because there's only one axe.
Maybe, yeah. I guess as we play through, we'll try both if we have time.
Okay, level complete. So we got 100 gold and a rocket launcher. That sounds pretty good.
Rocket launcher sounds cool. I suppose we should go to the shop, given that we just got some gold.
Is that a shop, or is that more money?
Oh. My assumption would be that it interacts with money, and I don't think you can get money just out of thin air, so it presumably consumes your money.
I've been playing a bunch of Hades, and money is definitely one of the room rewards. Ooh.
Oh?
Oh, a shop definitely did appear brief. Oh, I can scroll to the side of the screen like this. That is a big skull and crossbones.
So that's some good information design.
So I was thinking, no, I can't get to a. I was assuming campfire as rest spot, and I kind of need some more health. So I don't think I want to go to axe. I think I go to mystery and hope it's not.
Yeah.
There. Okay. So definitely taking inspiration from games like Slay the Spire, and hey, that's fine. Slay the Spire is a great game. So we've got a cursed fountain. Find an ancient fountain. Shiny coins float in the water. Unsettling moan comes from the stream. Do we want 75 gold, but increase the damage we take?
Not sure that'll
for one draw. What is a draw? What are we drawing? Let's try it. You earned 17. 17 gold?
I suppose so.
So I paid 10 gold and I got 17 gold back. That sounds like a pretty good deal.
Yep.
Full heal?
What have we got now?
How much are any of these things? Oh no, this is the rest site, isn't it?
This is choose one and get one of these things for free?
I assume so. Let's do that. Okie doke. It's kind of a shame that we the map always starts scrolled over this side as well, because now I've got to
Yeah.
scroll this way. But okay,
I'm also struggling to tell where you are. Like I know they've grayed out the things that you have visited, so you can solve for
Follow
where
the
you
chain.
must have most recently been. But it's annoying there's
sprites
not like a big highlight circle or something.
The sprites are bigger though.
So all of the places you've ever been are bigger,
Yeah.
and mostly you just have to follow to the end of the chain every time. It's maybe easier for you because you're the one clicking on them, you know where you're actually clicking. But as someone watching this, I have to go, well, clearly Tom hasn't got any of the things in this row yet, because those are all still... Oh, he has got as far as here, and... Whoa. What's all this?
This is the
shop.
shop.
This is the shop.
So we've got 127 money. I can increase bullet bounce times. I can increase chance of critical attack. I can increase bullet bounce times. Apparently I've got 2 pistols. I don't remember getting... I've got 1 pistol. I've got a rocket. Can I upgrade weapon? Upgrade weapon.
Right.
Okay, money going down, thing going up, but now I've got a level 6 rocket launcher.
That sounds good. Let's hope it doesn't only have 1 shot.
Yeah.
Ammo.
We'll find out. So where are we? We're here. The only path I can go is... Interesting, so I can't get... Can I get to this fight? It's looking like I can highlight it, but there is no line coming from the shop that I was just at to this.
Well, certainly try clicking it. Let you. No, okay. That's just a mouse over.
Alright, so we can go here. Also, what does stamina do?
I think... if you're doing dodges, your dodge rolls will consume it.
An extra 8. Oh, we've got plus 7 HP, which takes us to 108. Okay.
Yeah.
Off by 1 errors. Computer scientists love it. Let's fight the boss. Okie doke. Oh, so I didn't have to press G to start this time.
Okay.
Ooh,
you have fired a rocket launcher, and that did 50 damage.
Sure does.
Nice.
How much health do you think this thing has?
Yeah, that is something we would quite like to know.
Also, dodge rolling does not seem to cost any stamina. I'm not sure what the stamina is used for then. I also don't seem to be taking... Oh no, I did take a little bit of damage. It's got carrots flying around it. Could I be doing something about carrots?
It seems to be like his hands are things that he can take off and spin around.
They're firing lasers.
Sometimes they turn red. Is that like about to do damage, or?
Oh, I think it might be. Yeah.
He turns red when he takes damage, maybe. So
no, he turns red when he's about to attack me. Ooh.
Okay.
Okay, I think we won. I'm going to assume we won. We are back here, though. Okie doke.
There's no more progression to do. You've beaten the boss.
Okie doke. So, I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about this game. I like the concept. There's some rough edges on the execution. Let me...
Can we reset it and go through some other paths as we're talking?
Alright, so...
I noticed background music on the total screen and not for the rest of it. Is that just the streaming, or is that
I think you're right. Oh, look at this, though. The map is randomly generated.
Yeah, okay. So here's an interesting question. It's an advanced question, but does the random path generation always guarantee a way to the end? It looks like it's so dense that it almost probabilistically will.
I would assume there's always a path from each sort of floor, if you like, to the next floor.
Yeah.
And my question is, how balanced is this? Is it just we'll pick from a fight, an event, and a shop, or is there? Because some paths look like they are just, shop event. Like, is there anything incentivizing us to fight? I guess that's where we found the rocket launcher. So there is an incentive to fighting.
Yeah, you don't know what the incentives are going to be before you do the fights, but you can guess that there'll be some incentive somewhere.
I was about to complain, oh, we've got to go through the whole tutorial again before we can start playing, and then I remembered I can just press P.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we do have some sound effects. Oh,
Yeah.
those are spikes. Those spikes are bad.
So
Okay. So we've got some different like level layouts and sort of designs as well, which is kind of interesting.
That is nice. We would have liked to learn about the spikes at some point during the tutorial. But,
well, I don't know. There's a certain amount that you like, stuff like, you know, spinning blades of death, for example. You can assume that they're probably going to hurt you. I would say maybe you want to pick some spike sprites that are more obviously spikes if you're going to do it that way. But it's kind of okay. It adds a little bit of strategic depth to the level. Again, I'm curious how they're deciding what level they spawn and whether that's tied in any way to the progression or if it is just totally random. Because on the one hand, the fact that they've got, I don't know whether I call it procedural generation or random generation, but it also means they're not actually designing some of their levels, possibly. They're just sort of shuffling them. So the individual levels are designed, like the space, but then the order in which they're shown. So I guess it's the pacing more that might be an issue.
So this is the thing, right? Like, there's the choice of the stage that you're fighting on, and then also what enemies and how many enemies. I don't know if those two things are the same, like these enemies always spawn on this map, or whether or not you could have random map shape like this, and then the pacing is supposed to come from how many enemies arrive and what kinds of enemies you're fighting.
This feels a particularly tight map.
Yeah.
Also, my
It'd be interesting to know,
is doing.
Can you hide behind things in the same way that you're kind of constrained by these walls? Hopefully they do something rather than just being decoration.
Well, I think they block bullets and they definitely block the enemy's pathing. I think they also block the line of sight because they didn't seem to shoot at me while I was, or move towards me when they couldn't see me, which is kind of interesting. Like, the AI is obviously a little bit simple because it's getting a little bit stuck on the sprites, but that's okay. But the fact that it's only moving towards me when it can see me is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Let's because we've seen the game all the way through, so let's talk about the mark scheme. So we'll start, as we always do, with the quality, and top category of that is presentation. So things like audios, visuals, information design, and so on.
We've mentioned a few of these things already. So we had the audio sound effects we can keep hearing. There was backing track on the main menu and not through the game. I don't know if we turned it off in the settings or whether it just isn't here.
Just not here, unfortunately, which is a shame because even if they just kept that same track looping, I think it would have worked quite well.
Yeah. Graphics broadly seem quite appealing. Mostly consistent.
A little bit inconsistent with like particularly the wall textures in this look a little bit off. There's like a few little bits here and there, but you're right, they're mostly the same kind of style. It's not like we've got, you know, 2D sort of pixely sprite and then big high rendered or big 3D rotating models or something on top of it. So overall it's pretty consistent.
How about information then? We've said a few things here. What would you like to know when you're playing this game, and what do you actually get to know when you're playing this game?
So, in terms of the good bits, it's very, very clear what our health is. That's pretty important information, and it's very easily accessible. I still don't know what stamina does, but assuming it's useful, hey, that information is readily accessible as well. Maybe there's a different gun that we can get that costs stamina. I don't know. I like the fact that when a new wave is incoming, you get the little sort of crosses flashing on the screen. That's actually a really nice touch. That does like improve the gameplay quite a bit. It would be nice to see the enemy's health bars, particularly the boss at the end. That would give us a little bit more to work with. I can't heal up because there's no path from it. In fact, the only place I can go is to another fight, so we might be able to see what happens when we get a game over screen.
Out of interest, have you done both an axe fight and a sword fight yet, or have you just done?
Haven't found an axe fight yet on this run.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. That was quick. We'll go for an axe fight this time. Oh, wait, no, still don't need to run around there. So again, like I don't know how much money we have right now, but the fact that we've got just 2 shops to start with means that there's some choice because we have to consider where we're going to go after this. But our shop's a useful thing to have when we've only got 20 bucks. Oh, I've got a machine gun and a rocket launcher still? Or are these just things that I...
Yeah, no, I think you just haven't had your items taken away from the last run.
Okay. Well, I'll keep them then. Let's try the axe fight. Oh.
We might need to reset.
Might need to reset that. Let's close that. Go over here. Reopen it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So overall,
now we've got an axe fight straight off the bat.
Perfect. We'll have a look at that. So where are we landing on the quality of the presentation overall?
That is a great question. So pros and cons. So what would they need to hit, say, the good level for this?
To give them a good mark, we would expect professional, complete and effective graphics, audio and information design. Below that in the satisfactory category, we'd have workable. So that's effective, but with some inconsistencies.
I am inclined to say, the problem is there's some very good features about it, and there are some features that I think could use a little bit of improvement. So, like I say, the crosses and stuff appearing on the ground is great, but the lack of health bars is a little bit of a shame. The fact that they've got highlighting for like the route of the map is great, but as you say, it's difficult to know exactly where you are or see where the route's going. When I'm deciding if I want to go to a shop, I don't know how much money I've got, but once I'm in the shop, everything's like relatively clear and they're conveying quite a bit of information. So I think on the whole, I'm almost leaning towards, I think it probably hits a good overall. What are your thoughts on the matter?
I thought it might be halfway between a satisfactory and good.
I think if it wasn't for like also the damage numbers, I think are a nice touch. I think there are a lot of things that they could have overlooked when they were making this.
This is true,
but because they've included them, it's sufficiently polished. I think you're right. There's definitely room for more polish, which is why it doesn't hit the excellent level. But they do have like the found in the same way as the music. It's disappointing that there isn't music all the way throughout the game, but they have included it like we've asked to. So next on is meaningful play. I'm certainly playing it, and it's one of these games where I can tell I'm going to struggle to discuss it and play it at the same time.
Yeah, but and the descriptions include, is it playable, or is it engaging, or is it fun? So as you're playing it, can you tell us a little bit about whether you feel like it's engaging and or fun?
I'm certainly feeling engaged. Am I having fun? Or at least in terms of our mark scheme for fun. So the things we're sort of looking at here are, how the controls go, the set of mechanics that they've got. Do they work well together? Are there any bugs? Hopefully this chap is dead, or I'm going to be stuck here forever. Also, I feel like the graphic on my pistol has disappeared. Oh, and these chaps are a bit stuck. Ooh, let's see if I can kill this one. Ooh, they vanished in a puff of smoke. So there's a couple of bugs with the game when we get to the end of the game, it crashing. But there's a lot of them. Yeah, I think he's just dead and doesn't realize it yet. But this one might not be. Okay, so yeah, definitely some bugs, unfortunately. I don't think there's a way to force progression, so we're going to have to crash out and start again. So definitely some bugs, but also a decent amount of complexity. Like we've got enough... Ooh, he vanished. We've got a number of different weapons. We've got a number of different levels. They've got the complexity of generating the map in whatever form that they've done it. The controls are mostly fine. It controls quite well. Like the pistol's a bit annoying and slow, but it's your starting weapon. It probably should be. Yeah. I am. Again, I'm. So a good would be it's engaging. It's got multiple mechanics, smooth controls, readable complexity. May still have minor bugs. I'm honestly thinking the sort of the suite of mechanics they've got plus the the fact that the controls do feel quite smooth and intuitive sort of puts them at the excellent. The only thing that's keeping them from excellent is there are some bugs, and they are sort of game breaking bugs as well, unfortunately. So
yeah, I'd say similar.
So
Mechanics and controls are above good, but the bugs are below good, and it averages out to good overall.
Yeah, I think so. Ooh, interesting. So we've got another path this time where we've just got an axe. So again,
Okay.
I think we're going to, in fact, we're about to talk about this when we talk about the overall level design. So risks and rewards and pacing. So sort of the balance and the pacing overall. I almost feel like it's kind of nice that they've tried to do this whole, procedural roguelike kind of a thing. But for a prototype like this, where we're specifically looking at level design, I almost wonder if they'd have been better served having a static map.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. They've done something quite complex, but to make it work really well, something complex needs to be done really well. And it's a little bit more like we've done some random things, and that's going to hurt them a little bit on the goals, risk, rewards, and the pacing.
So this bit is sort of a very good example of that. Of this time, the only choice we've got is a really hard fight right at the start of the game when we don't have any power, and this is not a risk versus reward choice. We are being forced or railroaded straight into having to take this fight. Now, there's some argument that starting us off with a harder fight means that, okay, it just changes our choices later down the line where we've taken more damage, and now we have to perhaps be more cautious in our choices going forwards. So it's not terrible by any stretch, but it doesn't necessarily show off their design skills.
Yeah. I mean, notably, the rest of those choices give you much more in the way of goals, risk, rewards, because it should be fairly clear. If you're going to the rest spot, then, well, you're not taking a risk there, and you're therefore supposedly missing out on a reward. What are those rewards for taking the riskier paths? You get some weapons if you complete a fight. Do you get better weapons if you complete a harder fight? Or more of them?
I've yet to complete a harder fight, but I will let you know if I can get through this, which I may not be able to. I would assume, or again, but this is my assumption, that harder fight means more reward, like more risk, more reward, right? That's what you would intuitively say.
That's what we hope to see, yeah. Of course, I would say the goals overall are pretty clear, right?
Get to end, fight baddies. Yeah. Oh.
There is perhaps...
Hopefully that's not a problem. It's possible we're not going to be able to defeat one of these elite fights if that keeps happening.
Yeah. It's clear that your final goal is to beat the big boss. It's clear roughly what your intermediate goals on the way there are. I think it's reasonably clear that when you're in one of these fights, the assumption is you do have to kill everything, although, it's always the case that you might be able to survive some time limit or something. Did we get told during the tutorial whether our goal was explicitly killing everything?
I don't think it was, but I think that's, again, much like the spikes, that's kind of an assumption that you can there is a certain amount of assumptions you can make when playing a game, that if there are a bunch of bad monsters, and you've been given a gun, kill the bad monsters. This feels like quite a difficult fight, given that it was the first fight that I could pick, and in fact the only route. So again, we'll talk about this in a second with the pacing, I guess, but
yeah. Should we lock in goals, risk, rewards then? Do we feel like we're at a coherent set of goal, risk, rewards? Maybe a clear and coherent set of goal, risk, rewards?
I think so. Here, the reason I keep bringing up the pacing is because I think actually their design decision to make a branching sort of roguelike type game with all of these different options, and even within some of them, like the events, like you're given 3 choices of risk versus reward, right? Do you want to give up some max health for some gold? Do you want to spend some gold for some max health? Do you want to just leave? And they're all quite good sets of risks and rewards. So I'm inclined to say my gripes about their level design system, I'll keep to the pacing. And as far as the goals, risk, and reward, I think they've done a quite good job. I would say there is a clear and coherent set of goals, risks, and rewards here.
I agree. Can we go even higher? Would require clear, coherent, and well-balanced set of goal, risk, rewards. How do you feel about the balancing of these?
So again, this is it's the balance where I think it sort of falls down a little bit. The individual ones, like the events, seem to be relatively well balanced. But the way that they are sort of ordered and constructed means, like, again, this is the first fight that we have to choose. We don't actually get that risk versus reward choice because we're sort of railroaded into it, and it is a relatively hard fight, partly because of where it falls in the game, because I don't have any good weapons, and partly because of the actual design of the level space. Like, it's quite difficult to get decent shots on all of these enemies here, combined with the bug that I can't remember which ones of them are alive or dead. So I think it hits the good. I don't know if it hits the excellent.
Yeah, I agree with that. How about pacing then? This is the kind of key sticking point.
Yeah, pacing, I think it's not a bad design, but it does not necessarily highlight the things that we asked for in the marks criteria. So in terms of the pacing, does the pacing rise over time? I think there's a final boss, but everything else, there isn't a coherent pattern because they're all sort of seemingly shuffled randomly. And it's not like, even if the things are shuffled randomly, the first fight is always, one enemy, and the second fight is always two enemies, and so on, and it builds up like that. It seems like not only the arrangement of the types of encounter, but the constitution of those encounters are pretty random. So I'm kind of inclined that this might fall between a poor and a pass, unfortunately.
So this is the interesting bit, yeah. Like, I would say all the way up until the boss fight, you've either got flat pacing or variations in tension, but no coherent pattern over time, which puts it at the poor level. And then specifically, you get a very clear, coherent jump for the bit at the end. So I think you're right. It goes above the poor because of how the end fight works. The question really is it enough for us to say tension somewhat rises over time? Because it does somewhat rise over time, except that there's also not very much coherent pattern up until the end.
So I would say they've put in the components that would allow that to happen, but again, they're all in a box and they're being shaken randomly. But for example, it's not just fight, boss. They have, because they've got the shops, because they've got the rest encounters, because they've got the random encounters. You can have like a fight and then a sort of easing back of the tension, and then another fight, and then so on and so on and so on. But you're right, the fights don't escalate in a coherent way. So does it hit between a poor and a pass, or is there no pattern to the way it happens?
Yeah, I think for me it either gets between a poor and a pass, or maybe if we're generous it gets the pass mark. But
I don't think it quite hits the pass because really overall there is no coherent pattern. It's somewhat generous to say, it rises at all because all of these things are random. The only thing that makes it that has a climax is the boss fight. But I think that is enough to keep them between a poor and a pass and not down at a poor.
Yeah, okay. How about the tutorial aspect then?
Now, this might be another sort of sticking point because one of the things that we're looking for is, a gradual explanation of gameplay and controls that's revealed as you play. And their tutorial is basically all on one screen, and then you're thrown. Well, there are some elements that are not tutorialized, but you sort of discover as you play, like the spikes, I guess, like the shop. But none of those things are sort of taught through level design. And again, this is one of those things where, although in a fully fleshed out game, a procedural generated map could be quite good, so long as Dan says, you've got the constraints in place to make sure that it generates interesting maps. If they had done a hard-coded map, they would be able to put some of this design into place in order to tutorialize things as they would like. So, for example, having making sure that there's a rest after the first fight to tutorialize that, rather than relying on the player to just stumble across one.
Yeah, I was going to say very similar things. I think they've done some tutorializing on that first screen. They've taught us the controls and things, which is, mostly simple bits of tutorial.
But I think
they've missed,
even
I
with
think
the bits that they've
important
taught,
bit.
they've missed some stuff out. Like, they teach the dodge roll, but they don't ensure that you've understood. They have the I guess they do have the target dummy, so you've got something to practice your firing on. It's kind of interesting. The actual mechanics that the player has to work with are kind of limited, so there isn't that much for them to tutorialize. The reason that we gave them credit for the complexity is because they've got a variety in the types of obstacle and challenge they face. But in terms of actually tutorializing stuff to the player, there's not a huge amount for them to do.
Yeah. And so I think I was going to say similar things to what you said about this map, that really for this tutorial to be better, we'd want maybe the first 3 nodes on the tree to be pre-scripted. You always first get a little fight, and then you get specifically a shop that allows you to spend the money that you just got from that fight to make sure that the money you get is always enough to buy something that's in the shop. Then you always get a rest, and then you always go into a slightly harder fight, and then you open up into this, big map where you can choose all sorts of interesting things.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this happens to have generated quite a nice one, right? It happens to force you into a fight first, and then we don't see a rest, but we see some choices after that, and then it puts you into a big map. Like this happens to have randomed into the kind of tutorial we would have hoped maybe to have seen every time we played.
Although again, speaking about the pacing, the fact that all of the possible options before the boss fight or another fight, like there's a reason that games like Slay the Spire and Hades and things like that have a rest or a shop or something before your final boss fight.
Yeah, and as a more general point, 4 copies of the same thing isn't actually a choice there, right?
True. Okay, so in terms of tutorial, I mean, they give us some explanation of gameplay and controls. Is the fact that I don't know if it goes beyond that.
Yeah. To get the satisfactory level, we're looking for somewhat aligned with play, and really this is all just before the play section starts. And the bits that are introduced during play, stuff like the shop and stuff like other elements of the map, don't actually really get tutorialized. We don't learn that we're about to get some money and take it to the shop. We get thrown into the shop screen and we just sort of see everything. What does this do? Well, we can click on some items and then we hope that we can upgrade them. It's not clear what the upgrades on the right are actually going to do for us.
Which is why I think it might actually be sort of down at the poor level, unfortunately, because there's some explanation of gameplay and controls, but none of it is revealed as we play. I've just realised we've spent a long time on this game. We should start moving on. Moving on to the core dynamic. What would you say is the core dynamic of this game?
I suppose it's destruction, right? You've got weapons, you're making things die. You can't proceed until you've done all of that.
Yeah, you get rewarded with weapons, you get given new weapons, you can buy new weapons, you can upgrade your weapons. It's all about destroying stuff. So that would be what I say it is. What have they said in their game notes that the core dynamic
They have in fact said core dynamic of our game is destruction, focused on the theme of violence. Yeah.
So that part I would say is it's a pretty clear core dynamic. It is pretty well supported by all the mechanics. All the mechanics are about shooting, destroying enemies. We can't progress until we've destroyed the enemies. All of the shops and upgrades, and to a lesser extent the events give you stuff like damage reduction or damage boost. All of these things work together quite nicely. So as far as the core dynamic goes, I think all of their stuff is I didn't get a weapon. Oh, that's kind of annoying.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like that was a response to your decisions or gameplay. Was it just random?
Yeah. So again, I would say this kind of hits the good. I don't know if it hits the excellent, because for the excellent they'd need that integrated set of mechanics. And again, the kind of some of the randomness maybe takes away from some of that, like the fact that we just randomly didn't get a weapon there.
Yeah, it's also true in their feedback that they tell us. They've also said another core dynamic is trading. Players must trade off between sacrificing money, health, and things. That isn't a core dynamic, and also having multiple core dynamics is not what we mean by a core dynamic. So they've mostly understood what's going on here, but I think they've confused themselves a little bit.
Like trading, like the trading, and like I say, the shop to buy and upgrade weapons is definitely a mechanic that supports that dynamic, but it's not a secondary dynamic by itself. It's not like the trading by itself is really fun, and that's letting me, destroy more stuff. It's just the trading's just a mechanic that that allows for the destruction to happen, but it's not fun in and of itself. I'm a bit annoyed that these things don't seem to take damage from the spikes. But okay, I think that hits a pretty firm good.
Yeah. So, the final bit on the map scheme is feedback. Yeah. So let's see. They were saying that the feedback they got was about focusing on their core dynamic, make sure that the game mechanisms relate to their core dynamic of destruction. Let's see. Have they said anything else? The shop supports that dynamic as a secondary dynamic.
Well, I don't think it supports, again, not a secondary dynamic, but I will agree that it supports the thing. So, okay, so they have thought about their core dynamic. They have made sure that it is definitely destruction. Yeah, I don't think they've necessarily gone into a lot of detail about how they've interpreted that feedback they got and why they made the changes that they did. But if we say, yeah, they've thought about their core dynamic and they've made sure it emphasizes destruction, then I can say like their changes have had some success.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So that again feels like a satisfactory, because they've not really elaborated on like all of the changes that they made or why that they made them in that way. But if their feedback was make sure your core dynamic is clear, they have made sure that their core dynamic was clear. Excellent. So with that, I think we move on to our next game. And our next game is Galactic Byte. So this one we are having to play in the editor, because unfortunately they didn't submit a working build, but we'll do our best to play it anyway. So we've got a nice little title screen, lovely little bit of scrolling. We've got start game, skills, and quit game. What happens if we go to skills?
Just
ooh, okay.
It looks like a shop that we're going to get access to later.
Yeah, or is it a... I've been playing a lot of Hades recently. Is it like a sort of, keepsake thing where at the start of a run you get to choose from some upgrades? Let's press the help button and find out, I guess. Skill system. Learn how to unlock and equip powerful abilities. Next. I'm already a little bit nervous that their tutorial is just going to be a bunch of pages of text. Earning points. Points are earned from clearing waves. The more you progress, the more points. Points are permanent and carry between runs. Okay, so sort of roguelike system, kind of nice. Points to buy skills that enhance your abilities. Buying skill. This is a lot of text to dump on before I've even pressed the start game button. Equipping skills. Okie doke. Skill types. Berserk mode. Missile. I feel like this bit is already explained on the cards as well. But choose the skill that matches your playstyle. Okay, we're leaning into perhaps risk versus reward a bit there. Although it's interesting that we start with one equipped and these are locked and cost different amounts as well. So that kind of implies that it's less about choosing one that fits your playstyle, and this one is better because it's the most expensive.
Yeah.
But alright, so we've got Berserk mode. Greatly increases bullet damage and fire rate for 3 seconds. Do I have to press a button to activate it? So they haven't actually told me how to use the skill. Maybe they teach me that in the game. Alright, let's press start game and we'll see what happens. Ooh, that's a lot more text as well. Okay. WSD to move. Space to shoot. Left shift to dash. Q to use skill. There we go. So my skill was Berserk mode, right?
Yeah.
To defeat enemies and survive as long as possible. Coins to upgrade your abilities between runs. Press start game. Okie doke.
You've got some hearts in the top and coin counter in the top. Also a wave counter. So we've got some good information design here.
So I've got to actually collect the coins. Can't just.
Yeah. There seems to be some different kinds of enemies as well.
Get to select an upgrade. I've got 8 coins. This costs 50. So I can't afford anything yet. That feels like a bit of a disparity in, you know, if they know I'm pretty sure I got all the coins, right? So there's a maximum of 8 coins I could have at that point. Maybe...
Well, I guess it depends what spawns. If the enemies are randomly chosen from the available ones, they might actually be worth different amounts.
I would hope not, because otherwise we're going to end up repeating ourselves quite a lot for this batch.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that the coins fly away from you as well. So on the one hand, maybe it's a nice bit of risk versus reward, because I have to go over to this side of the screen and risk getting hit. But it's also feels a little bit tricky. Ooh, okay. Now I've got an upgrade. I've got 29 points now. So I guess I do rack up coins pretty quickly. Let's get some more health. Oh. Okay, so I get to pick one of them as well. I guess it said choose an upgrade, not choose more than one upgrade. So these things take 2 hits and drop 2 coins. Maybe it's just because, you know, one of them's bigger, but it feels like these sort of drill-shaped ones feel like the more dangerous opponent.
Well, I had guessed that they don't shoot and they only hurt you if they crash into you, so they probably instant kill you if they hit you, but they're much less scary because they don't do anything until they're right on top of you and you can run away.
Oh yeah, just from a visual design thing though, like, I don't know, they strike me as they look scarier.
Yeah,
these coins.
They are, I think, slightly bigger than the ones that shoot.
Repeater shot. That sounds pretty. Ooh, do I get repeater shot or shotgun shot? Let's go for repeater shot. All right, so I've just got to survive for as long as possible. I haven't used my skill yet. Let's use that and see what happens. Cool sound effect. Oh, okay, that thing splits into 2 of those, which is great because more coins. How? So I, in a way, I've been kind of too distracted playing this to notice. Have you spotted the amount of enemies getting particularly more dangerous? Maybe because maybe I'm just very good at games, but I'm not feeling an increase in challenge yet.
Yeah, I hadn't specifically spotted increase in the number of enemies. It did seem like the elites didn't spawn until wave 2 or 3 or something, so there was some pacing that goes on with holding the elites back. We might have reached a point where we're just getting many waves that are all the same. I'm not sure if they're getting any harder anymore.
Yeah. Which, if it's the case, then the pacing is still going to be going up because there's more enemies between each wave. But there's not a huge amount at hand. Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like the rest of the game is going to be relatively similar to this. So I think we can probably safely start talking our way through the mark scheme as we go.
Sure.
I wonder if is this going to replace my double shot? Let's try and find out.
Let's start with the quality of presentation then. Graphics, audio, and information design.
So overall, I think it's pretty good. Like the backgrounds are very appealing. We've got a bunch of different audio, including background music and effects. It's relatively well. It's mostly clear where, you know, enemy projectiles and things are. The background is a little bit sort of noisy and difficult to pass at times, but I think that's kind of a minor issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say they're at least at the good.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly.
To get the
at really-
excellent, we'd hope for impactful, complete, effective, and appealing graphics, audio, and information design.
You know what? I almost think it might be there. We've got a number of like distinct enemy types. It's still clear what's going on.
Yep, it's got its specific character to it, which is quite nice. There's those little things like that sound effect presumably implies what, the start of another big wave.
It's when I use my berserk skill.
Ah,
Might have to
Yeah.
intentionally take some hits so that we can see what happens.
there we go.
There we go. So we go to main menu, we go to skills. Got 1,300 points, so I can afford both of these. Do we want a missile? Let's start with a missile and see how that goes. Yep, that's a missile,
Oh.
all right.
Well, since we're on graphics, audio, and information design, that's quite a nice
Nice
thing
little
to-
effect, yeah.
yeah.
We've got the color coordinated wave indicator as well.
Yep.
Like, I don't know if it's. I'm going to nitpick and say, I don't know if it's mega useful because, again, there's nothing to do to prepare. I guess it means, oh, okay, I know I can collect those coins that are over on the right-hand side of the screen, and now I should back away a little bit. So,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that's probably
I
useful.
think that's nice. So I think they possibly hit that excellent level for the complete, effective, and appealing.
Yeah, I think there's a few bits of the information design, and again, the sort of noisy background and things like that maybe stop it going all the way to prize-worthy, but I think this probably hits an excellent. Like, it's simple, but it's effective.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. What about the mechanics then?
Sorry, just
We're interested.
speaking of information design. So, for example, how long for my skill to recharge would be something to maybe highlight in a way. In terms of mechanics and play, what mechanics have we got? We've got moving, we've got shooting, we've got 3 kinds of enemies that are broadly similar but slightly different, and mostly we've got a number of different types of skills. So stats like our firing arc, our firing speed, and so on and so on and so on. So it's not overly complex, but there are a number of things that are sort of working together quite well. And the controls feel pretty smooth.
Yeah, we haven't seen any bugs as far as I can tell.
Yeah, also relatively bug-free. Again, like it's essentially a bit of a simpler game, but it works quite nicely. I think once we start stacking some of these upgrades, we do become a little bit vulnerable.
I mean, that seems okay, right? Like, you get to a point in the game. Well, it could go either way, right? You either get to a point where the end condition is, you're God and you've completed everything that's worth doing, or you get to a point where your enemies get so powerful that you'll inevitably get killed. I guess we talk about this in pacing.
We'll talk about that in pacing and core dynamic, I imagine. But yeah. The fact that at a certain point the game becomes trivial is not necessarily good. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. I would say, in terms of meaningful play, we've got multiple mechanics, smooth controls, reasonable complexity. Haven't seen any bugs. Doug, do you think it has sufficient complexity?
I guess it comes down to what these upgrades do and whether the upgrades constitute enough meaningful difference in the play. Like, you've done a couple of runs now. Do you feel like a run with force field and a run with berserk and a run with missiles play differently enough to each other that they're actually constituting different mechanics?
They're certainly different mechanics. I think if missile is a bit annoying to aim. So if it was just you're flying forever, you're shooting the bad, I assume aliens, then it would be probably quite simple. Like the fact that they've got like upgrades and money and stuff like that doesn't add a lot of extra complexity, but it probably adds just enough that I think we can call it good.
Yeah, I was going to agree with good.
A different thing that I forgot to mention when we were talking about presentation: the little trails of the particles and stuff like that. Also a very nice.
And on the spaceship.
Yeah.
Yeah, your spaceship has it, which is nice. Yeah. How about the goals and the risks and the rewards then?
So this is the thing. There's definitely a nice sort of reward set of there's a bunch of different type of upgrades you can get. You can get health, you can get firepower, and so on. It doesn't feel like there's much risk in the way we play, other than like the I guess the small amount of risk in do I buy health or do I buy gun.
You mentioned before the going and collecting coins, which are optional,
that's true.
is risky. I do quite like that as a risk-reward mechanism here.
Yeah.
It actually creates two risk rewards, right? One is that since you've shot all the stuff, you won't go over to the right-hand side of the screen, which is dangerous, in order to get those benefits. But it also actually creates a second risk reward, which is you could allow the spaceships to get real close to you before you shoot them, so that when they spawn, the coins are spawning close to you.
That is true. I think as far as risks and rewards go, it's relatively limited, right? But you're right that it is present.
It's one, I would say, quite well done risk-reward implementation.
So on our mark scheme, where would we say? So pass would be a limited set of goals, risks, and rewards. Satisfactory would be a coherent set, and good would be clear and coherent. I feel like obviously goal is clear: get coins, survive as long as possible. We're never getting lost, but again, that's partly due to it's just a nice simple concept. The risks versus rewards are down to your opportunity cost of which of these do you choose. Do you save up your money for a better gun later, or do you buy the cheap gun now? And like you say, the sort of movement manipulation of when do I try and collect these coins. I don't know if it hits all the way up at good, but I think it definitely at least hits satisfactory. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a coherent risk of goals, risk, and rewards. Okay, what about pacing then?
So it definitely rises, but I'm almost inclined to say it only rises somewhat. Like wave 8, wave 16 are feeling very, very similar to me.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen, it seems similar. One thing to note is that they've specifically positioned this game as a game that you play multiple runs through. They say, you'll unlock different skills and you'll use different skills on future runs. So when we're talking about the pacing, we don't just mean the pacing until you've died in this run. We're also talking about the pacing over multiple runs because they've actively promoted that. Do you feel like the second playthrough of this game is meaningfully more interesting, difficult, the tension's higher than the first?
So I don't know about that, but I will say it's nice to try out a new skill, right? The first time we used the missile, we went, oh, that looks cool. I don't know if I should actually try and die and then get the force field as well to see if we get the same effect. On the one hand, it's a shame that there aren't more of those skills and things to change run to run, because as you say, if they're encouraging replayability, it would be nice if there was more reason for it. But on the other hand, it's a small game prototype. We don't want them to go doing like an endless upgrade tree or something just for this. So I think 3 is probably the minimum that they would need for this, but it does sort of work quite well.
They could have eked out some extra ones if they'd decided they were going to use more than one skill. If you're allowed to swap between the skills you've unlocked, then your experience playthroughs might involve sections where you're using the missile and then sections where you're using your force field and so on, and you get further through the progression into wave 30, 35, 40, would push you further in the pacing category, I guess.
Yeah. So would you say it somewhat rises over time? Would you say it clearly rises over time?
It certainly somewhat rises. Do we have that clearly rising?
part of the problem, I think, is it definitely rises because we get, like you say, we only get those sort of purple enemies that take 3 hits after a couple of waves. But beyond a certain point, it kind of flattens out. There might be more of them, but because by that point we've got so many upgrades and things like that, I don't feel the same tension, because we basically are just spamming bullets and not worrying about how many enemies there are, or even about collecting coins at that point. I think, and we're going to talk about this when we talk about their core dynamic, based on my assumptions of what their core dynamic is supposed to be, that it would be better served by, like you say, having the enemy sort of ramp up exponentially, so that you are definitely feeling the pressure and definitely sort of holding out against all the odds.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I agree with you there that we've got the somewhat rises, but not quite the clear level. We need to talk about the tutorial next. What have you learned, and how clear was it as you were learning?
So one of the important things we talk about in the lecture on tutorial levels is don't just give the player lots to read. Let them, experience it through play. And they've kind of not done that here, which is a real shame. So they definitely teach you everything you need to know. It is all front-loaded. We've kind of already said that the mechanics are relatively simple, so luckily it's stuff you can all hold in your head, but the fact that they had 5 pages of text before we'd even press start game was a little bit of a shame.
Yeah.
It's nice that we can try out these different. I keep forgetting I can dash. But this at least is not static text. We can fly around. We can shoot. We haven't got anything to test that on. We haven't got anything to really test our skill on either. But they are at least telling us what we need to do. The problem is, it's not really. I was going to say it's not integrated with the rest of their game particularly well.
Yeah.
So, for example, there is no gradual explanation of gameplay and controls, except for you could make the argument that because stronger enemies appear later, there's this kind of, you see them later, you're acclimatized to them and so on. But even that might be stretching it a little bit. I think
these upgrades are a better example of gradual explanation. You don't get taught about your attack speed, health, and dash recovery at the start of the game, and then now at this point here you discover that these are things that might change. Maybe you don't get enough information to make a particularly informed decision, but you're learning more about how the dynamics work here.
I think part of the issue is that the mechanics at the player's disposal are relatively simple. It's move and shoot, really, plus dash and special, but there's not a lot to have to tutorialize to the player. So again, it feels kind of like it's between a pour and a pass, because there is an explanation of gameplay and controls, but it's not really gradual or revealed as you play. It's all very much front loaded.
Yeah.
Okie doke.
Yeah.
Core dynamic.
That brings us on to. So I've got the document in front of me, so I know what they have said the core dynamic is. What do you reckon the core dynamic of this game is?
So I would say it is survival, because the goal of the game is to survive for as long as possible. What have they said?
They have also said their main core dynamic is survival. They've listed some things they think are supporting dynamics as well.
What have they mentioned for supporting dynamics, just out of interest?
They've got destruction, collection, and evading. Well, I certainly agree destruction and collection are in this, and support.
So destruction I would agree with. Collection I would disagree with. Just because I'm collecting coins does not mean it's a collection dynamic. You could argue that I'm collecting skills. My goal is to collect every skill. But one of the sort of key principles of a collection dynamic is, like, you have a collection, whether it's your Pokédex or your football sticker album. You've got something that you are trying to complete. It's not just a case of making number go up.
Yes, okay. So although you're collecting things, that's not actually the collection dynamic.
That's it. Like, definitely, I would say destruction is a good secondary supporting dynamic. Often is in these types of survival games. And yeah, I think as a survival game, it works. We've got an infinite set of levels and enemies, and we just have to survive for as long as possible. Mostly, the mechanics support that. I think there's some things they could do to emphasize it. The obvious one being a high score table that says, congratulations, you got to wave 20. And then, next time I play, I'm like, I want to survive a bit longer and get to 21 or so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That said, I would say they've got a pretty clear core dynamic, and it is supported by the primary mechanics.
Yeah, which puts them at the good level. Beyond that, we'd need an integrated set of mechanics, and I think we're just saying that it's a little too limited to call it an integrated set of mechanics.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, sort of partly tying back into the balance, at a certain point, survival becomes almost trivial. Okay, on to feedback.
Yeah, so this is a little difficult to read. They've got a big block of text. They say, changes were designed through collaborative brainstorming. We implemented it in code, and we can believe these things without you telling them to us. But if I pick through as we go, they were told. Where is it? Apparently told to rethink their enemy design and core systems. They need to be a bit more specific than that. So they introduced elite enemies that fire a spread of bullets. They spawn additional basic shooters when they die. Diversified their enemy behavior to close range attackers and distant shooters.
Yeah, so I'm skimming through it as well, and one of the things they say is to make the game fun, they focused on elevating tension, rewarding play, and improving player feedback, but they don't talk about really how they did those. So they mentioned something about, like you say, the elite burst attack, but they don't talk about like what changes have they made to improve those things.
Yeah, so it looks like they've got some feedback, they've made some changes, it's just that the way they've communicated what those things are is so confusing that it's hard for us to clearly tie the changes that they've made to the feedback that they got.
Yeah, so for example, one of the points they mention is we reimagined the game's visual presentation, but they don't say what they changed about it or why they made those changes or what issue they thought that would fix. So
yeah, was it an information presentation? Was it something about the information design that we needed to know that we didn't know, or was it that it just didn't look very pretty? Or
so I feel like we're kind of in the level of it being. So a poor would be the feedback was not addressed well, although some other positive changes have been made. A pass would be the feedback was addressed, but the changes have had limited success. Sort of reading between the lines of what they've got, it does look like the changes that they have made have improved their game, but it's just difficult to connect those to the feedback they were given. So to me, it feels like it's sort of partway between a poor and a pass on that.
Yeah, I go for similar reasons. Feedback was not clearly communicated, but there have been changes that seem to have made a positive impact.
Okie doke. Alright, and with that, let's move on to our next game. Okie doke, and our next game is Sokoban Overthrow. Nice title screen. Got a lovely character here, I guess that's who we're playing as. Got some nice music. Hopefully it will not get us flagged on YouTube, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Let's hit play. Ooh, select level. Got levels 1 to 16. Some of them are locked, some of them are not. I don't know if we're going to unlock these later or if they're just they're not in the demo version of the game, let's say. Let's start with level 1, see how we go. Welcome to the first level. It's a tutorial level of a box pushing game. So again, quite text heavy to start us off, but at least they've broken it up a little bit. WSAD to move yourself, push the green boxes to the white target points. R to restart level, escape to restart level, simple. Okay. go. I've played games before. Level 1.
Yep.
Oops, a little situation has come up. The box has been pushed too many times and now it's a bit tired. This time, you go clear the way ahead. Let's give it a try. Okay, let's go clear the way.
Does that imply you're pulling the box instead of pushing it?
You were quicker on the draw than I was. Yes, that's exactly what it is intending for you to do. But I ended up going and clearing the way ahead, like it said, and was very confused when nothing happened.
Yeah, okay. Can you also push it, or is it you can only pull it now?
Only pull it. So, do this. There we go. What? You don't have control this level? The box says it wants to improvise this time. Don't worry, the box knows where it's going. Doing nothing is also a form of victory.
So what, you sit here and wait for the box to solve the level?
I suspect... Oh no, I am the box.
That's kind of cute.
It's... it's funny.
It
It's
does
not...
interesting things to the rest of the game, but...
The box says, alright, let me see how you live. Walk over to it, and it will swap places with you. Now the box can experience your perspective too. Okay. Okay.
So it just switches places with you when you stand on it?
Yeah.
Which is...
There's something to this. Like the fact that it's the same level over and over and over again, but they change the mechanic of how you have to get the box to the target each time.
Yeah.
It's kind of cute. I kind of like it.
It's not exactly the same. There is one block different, I think. There used to be a narrow gap. But it is very similar. Yeah.
Even the walls aren't set in stone. Pushing walls is also a way of communication. Aha. There you go. Wait, have I just blocked myself? Quite possibly. No, I think I'm good. Wait, I might have now. Hang it. Luckily, there's a button to restart. The step noise is beginning to get grating.
It is a little too loud. If it was half as loud, we might have not focused on it.
Okay.
Nice. Oh. Okay.
Every wall has become your partner, moving together. Power of a crowd? No, the power of a wall crowd.
Does this mean the whole thing is going to move? Yes.
This is very silly and I like it. How do I... There we go. Oh no, 2048 mode. That's a bit of a throwback. Everyone has decided to slide all the way to the end, so don't get in their way. Oop. This is interesting. There's a lot of games that this reminds me of.
Yeah.
But there's...
we're going to get a copyright strike on the music, but...
But here's... So here's the thing. Is this a... So before we started recording, we were having a chat about the core dynamic of this and what they thought versus what I thought from playing the first level. I'm coming around to their way of thinking, you know. I don't think this is like a puzzle game. I think this is basically a comedy game where the fun thing is just figuring out what crazy mechanic you've got next.
I agree and disagree in some sense, which is I think it's still a puzzle game, but what's really interesting about it is that there's lots and lots of mechanics that you use once.
Hmm.
What have we got? Now we've got a portal. Okay. Oh, I wonder if this is a yeah reference to another game. Are you using different mouse buttons or something to make them, or is it just you always make a blue and then a yellow?
Always a blue and then a yellow, I think.
Yeah.
Can I not go there because there's a box?
Probably. Well, yeah, the box is underneath the portal.
I don't think I actually need the portals at all to solve this puzzle. The box reveals a sharp blade. I will duel you. Hey, the
This
music's
is a
changed.
final boss level, and we're fighting the box now.
The right moment, click to parry its attack. Don't be careless. This is very silly and I like it.
I'm enjoying watching it too.
Oh wait, do I...
It's confusing, but it's entertaining and confusing.
What's the right moment? Is it when it gets to the end? Oh, I see, when it's green. Oh, I pushed it into a corner. So I need to go over
Right.
here, and then parry, and then parry.
Yep.
Okay. So about 3 levels ago, I was about to say, you know, I think we've probably seen enough of like the mechanics of this to start talking about it, and now I'm not so sure. But let's start going through the mark scheme anyway, because we can at least start talking about audios, visuals, presentation, all of that good stuff.
Yeah. So some very interesting things to say here, right? Like you've got nice audio cues all over the place, including, interestingly, references to audio from other places.
Like the fact that the fact that it's like happy, sort of like, you know, your typical block pushing puzzle music at the start, and then you pull out a sword and you get battle music. That's kind of a nice touch, right? They didn't keep the same music throughout the whole thing. They changed it up based on the levels and stuff like that. The actual graphics themselves are a little bit inconsistent, but for the majority they're fine. We've got blocks, we've got puzzles, we've got nice little 2D sprites. Occasionally we've got a portal gun in there as well.
A diamond pickaxe.
Diamond pickaxe.
There's a few places where it's deliberately inconsistent.
Exactly. We've only got 10 bullets.
Are you trying to shoot the box, or are you trying to shoot something? Oh no, we've got enemies.
Oh, and they only move when we move. So we've got influences from Doom and Super Hot. Wait. Hang on. What were we talking about? We were talking about the graphics, I think.
Yeah.
I've been distracted. I'm actually just gonna let me just turn the music down just a little bit so I can hear Dan over. So, are these graphics and audio complete and effective?
I would say they're complete and effective. There's this weird thing about the inconsistencies, but they're inconsistent in a way that is somehow still consistent. It's consistently inconsistent. And I think there has been a lot of intentionality into exactly choosing which sprites to use and how to implement them. Usually we consider the consistency is required because something inconsistent would have been a bad choice, whereas here the consistency comes from deliberately choosing sprites from different places.
I think we might be stretching that a little bit, like the mushroom monsters and things and so on. Some of it's just that's just the asset pack we had. But
true.
I think broadly, I get like if some of the sprites were a bit a little bit more consistent, I think this would be easily up in the excellent. Also because of the audio, like I say, the fact that they changed the audio from level to level based on the vibe they're going for actually is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that that audio in particular is impactful, complete, effective, and appealing. And then there's some little bits here and there that are perhaps a bit more inconsistent.
Like
Information design.
One slightly weird thing. Why is the box not the same square as all of the other boxes?
Sure. Yeah.
But you're right. Like broadly, it's pretty good. Information design. There's not a huge amount of information to design, but we can see where we're aiming our portal gun or our regular gun. We can tell what a monster is and what's a block. Yeah, like there's not a lot of information to design.
It is interesting that because different mechanics show up all over the place, and at no point did you seem particularly confused about what was going on with them, implies the information design is good enough to tell you the relatively simple things in an effective manner.
Yeah, I think also that part of that is because the individual mechanics are all pretty individually simple.
Yeah.
But I forget where I was going with that. But yeah, I think it solidly hits the good. Meaningful play. Now this is kind of an interesting one. I was gonna say is this a game or is this a fun toy? Because most of the fun I'm having with this game is figuring out what kind of weird mechanic is coming up next. But the actual individual levels aren't necessarily challenging or anything. But there is some amount of challenge. There's there is a puzzle to solve with each set of mechanics. The pacing of them might be a little bit skew with, but
yeah, we'll come to pacing later. It is certainly this sort of thing where, because they keep changing the mechanics, it's very difficult to interpret how the mechanics are working together. There really are a whole bunch of separate mini games that don't have a coherent through line. But
but as far as the controls go, they're pretty usable.
Yeah,
I haven't really seen any bugs. There are definitely multiple mechanics. I don't think they are necessarily complementary mechanics. Like they're all sort of used once and then discarded, mostly for comedic effect, I'm gonna say. But they aren't used in a complementary fashion. They don't all tie together. But again, I think is it complex enough?
It's interesting because essentially it's the scope, right? Like each of the levels is very simple, but there are a lot of them, and the way that you move from each level to the next, there is something kind of meaningful about the way you're given each of these mechanics. It wouldn't be so good if you shuffled the order of them and so on.
Yeah, agreed.
It's sort of true that the box doing things and seeming to become sentient is in response to having been involved in playing the game for a bit and so on. So I think overall we've got kind of an interesting spread across, no bugs, controls are smooth, the mechanics, there's lots of them, they're not integrated, but they're engaging. Does this put it overall at the good or the halfway to excellent level?
I think it probably hits good. I don't know if it's got quite the complexity to hit excellent. You're right that there's quite a few different levels, but the levels themselves are pretty simply implemented. But I think again, for a prototype, I think we can say that's good.
I think it helps them that the level is very short. If you'd been given a long level to use each of these mechanics, you'd have been really bored by the end of it. That does kind of underscore that the novelty of each of these things is a core driving part of this experience. But they give you just enough of a level to mess around with the new gimmick, and then you move on.
Okay, what about goals, risks, and rewards? There's a clear goal.
Goal is clear.
Is there anything in the way of risk versus reward though?
This is a problem generally with puzzle games. Like there is the solution, and there's the things that aren't the solution, and you do the solution or you don't do the solution.
Well, yes, but also there are also trivial, if boring, ways to incorporate. Messed it up. Incorporate risk versus reward in a puzzle game. The obvious one being, like optional goals, right? So, you've got a block sliding puzzle where you've got to get a block to the end. You put 5 stars on the map, and you've got to, like, if you're a novice, you just go straight for the end. If you're an expert, you solve effectively an extra puzzle within the puzzle. Like, that's the simple way to do it, but it admittedly is a boring way, but it is a way. In terms of this, again, it wouldn't really fit the vibe of the game they're going for. It's just unfortunate that the vibe of the game they're going for doesn't hit all of the criteria that we're looking for here.
Yeah, so it's very much the case that you could give, a couple of boxes and you're trying to get all the boxes on and you only need to get one to pass, or as you say, you do stars all over the level that you can get as well. If they really wanted to try and take this idea that they've implemented and make it closer to the mark scheme, the sort of thing they might be able to do is something like, on every level, you can just push the block, and actually, if you use the cool, wacky upgrade or something, you don't get your bonus star or something. So you do, or something like that. So you've got both options. You solve it the boring way, or you solve it the exciting way. But it wouldn't be clear what the rewards were there.
Like even that, I think they like effectively what they've got is like a comedy puzzle game here, and the problem is I don't think that fits with what they've created, which is fine, but it means they're sacrificing this part of the mark scheme. They would probably need to fundamentally redesign their concept a bit to hit some of these things. So I would say, again, the goal is mega simple but mega clear. The goals, risks, and rewards are probably hitting the sort of very limited side.
Yeah.
I think as kind of a result of that, we might need to put it sort of on pause. So it's like, in fact, goals, risks, and rewards are almost entirely absent. But I think the fact that there's a clear goal to progression and it's relatively clear how you should do it, I think brings it up above that. So I think it does hit the poor level. But other than that,
yeah.
What about the pacing?
This is interesting. I mentioned before, I think the game wouldn't be as good if you shuffled the levels, and if that's completely true, then the pacing is good. I think actually what is true is that that's partially true. The first levels are clearly the first levels, and some of the later levels are clearly later levels, but because all of these mechanics are just very different as opposed to increasing in any meaningful way, there's variations in tension, but the coherency of those variations is much harder to evaluate.
So here's the thing. I think it's well paced, but in terms of tension, I think, so, like, in a way, the first level is the most tense because it is, as far as things go, I don't want to say it's the hardest puzzle, but it's kind of the hardest puzzle, right? All of the others are fun introductions, but like this level, as a perfect example, like is trivially easy. Like it's a funny joke, and again, it fits that vibe really well. But in terms of mechanical pacing, it does not work.
Yeah.
Same with this one, actually, because can I... Oh, no, I can't solve it without using the mechanic. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, that's certainly a nice bit of level design. So in that regard, it is true that some of the puzzles are getting harder, and so we definitely see... And in some sense, things like this portal is broadly a more complicated mechanic. So there's an increase in pacing that just comes from the fact that you've got more stuff to think about.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to say that, there is no pacing. Like, even if we're treating this as, like, a comedy game, the comedy is well paced. in terms of in terms of the, weirdly, this will come up more for the second coursework where we're talking more about narrative pacing. Like this bit, for example, the fact that the box pulls out a sword as sort of the climactic fight. In fact, actually, you know what? I tell you what, the final level where it starts spewing out monsters, and now I have to push the box and fight monsters at the same time. Incidentally, which I think is kind of nice because it doesn't suddenly become a destruction game because the enemies only move when I move. It stays that kind of block pushing puzzle game, but with an extra mechanic and some extra consequences. That actually works quite well. So for that, I would say probably hits the satisfactory, right? It's clearly rising over time. Do we think it is a coherent pattern, and do we think it's a coherent and well balanced pattern? I am inclined to say, because of the way they've structured it, even though... So in fact, the portal levels, actually, you're right, another good example of that. You do actually have to think more with this new mechanic. The Minecraft level is trivial, but it's, again, as far as comedic timing goes, it worked quite well.
Yeah.
Mechanically, I think we might still be at the good. We've got a number of discrete levels. They've got varying levels of tension. Some of them rise, some of them stay kind of the same. Some of them are, in a way, a nice little break from that sort of rising tension.
It's true, there's enough levels that actually having a few that are simple sprinkled in doesn't actually destroy the pacing, because you then move on to another one after that and pick up.
Yeah, I don't think it hits excellent, because I don't think the tension rises enough as you go.
Yeah.
But I think it still hits the good.
Okay, how about tutorial then? This will be an interesting category because there's lots and lots of things that we discover and learn as we go through the game.
Again, like it's... So I was nervous at the start when they gave us a bunch of words. But... And I thought they were just going to dump all of the information on us straight away. And then they introduced a bunch of extra mechanics that we have learned gradually and through play.
Yep, and we've talked about the level design, forcing you to interact with the mechanics that you've been given.
Yeah, so you're right. Like, in a way, it's a shame that a lot of these mechanics are only used once. Again, if we're going for a comedic game, it works that they're just used once and then we move straight on to the next one. In terms of, like, they could easily have turned this into, like, an extended puzzle game with just one of those mechanics, like the portal gun, for example. They introduce how it's used, and then they set up the level so that you have to learn how to use it in order to complete the level. And you could easily make I was going to say you could make an entire game with that mechanic. They did, and it was called Portal. But so where are we? Satisfactory would be a gradual explanation of gameplay and controls somewhat aligned with play. Good would be fully aligned with play.
I mean, it's hard to say that it's not fully aligned with play because you get given a mechanic, you do the level with the mechanic, and then the mechanic goes away again, you get a different mechanic and you learn that one.
See, this is the thing that has me stroking my chin is all of it tutorial? So, for example, let me... I don't know if there we go. So we're given, like, all of the information. I'm gesturing at my screen now. In this sort of tutorial box, and then we put it into practice. But we're not learning things through the level design. We're reading the tutorial and then having to apply it to the level. But the level design isn't teaching us things.
The level design does teach you one or two little bits about, getting stuck in corners, and the bottom right of this map is actually quite an important bit of level design that shows how you go around to get to the other side of the box. Right, like, yes, maybe it's simple enough that it doesn't actually take that much to think it through, but, this moment where you go round and, yes, now I can get on the other side like this, you kind of learned something about how the pushing and the pulling works, because specifically the level design forced you to go round that little circle.
Yeah, again, I don't think it's... it kind...
It's perhaps simple,
it's not teaching you something. It is making you demonstrate, like it's just you solving the puzzle, I think. But
I suppose so.
So I am kind of inclined to put it at the satisfactory level.
That felt about right to me. I wondered between satisfactory and good, but I think
I was considering it, but I think again because, and part of this is because again for comedic effect, they're putting some narrative in this tutorial as well. It would be nice if they did some of it without all the text, but I can see why they've done it that way.
Yeah. Right. Here's the really interesting discussion. Let's say core dynamic.
So, if you'd have asked me at the start of level 1, and in fact even up to this point, I would have said, obviously, it's a spatial reasoning game. We're given a box, we're given a space, we have to get the box through the space. And I read their game notes and went, so what have they said it is?
They've said it's a discovery game driven by a continuous sense of surprise.
And here's the thing, I can see where they're coming from. When I first read that, I thought, what are they talking about? It's just you're pushing a block to get to the end. But no, the fun thing about this game is seeing what weird mechanic you're going to be using next.
Yeah. They specifically say they wanted to shift focus from how do I solve this complex puzzle to what's the new twisted rule this time, which moves it directly away from being a puzzle game, even though I think actually still the core element might still be puzzling through how the mechanic actually helps you.
Yeah, exactly. The fact that they don't mention it being spatial reasoning at all makes me a little bit nervous. Because that is still like the core the core set of mechanics, if not the core dynamic itself, because that is, the ultimate goal is get the box to the end of the thing. I can see why they've called it discovery though, because again, the amount of joy I got when seeing this screen was palpable. So okay, how do we wrangle this with our mark scheme? So a good would be a clear core dynamic supported by the primary mechanics. And there's two. We can look at this as okay, like sure, from a comedy point of view, it's discovery, and the way they switch up the mechanics does all right for that. But the actual game is a spatial reasoning game. And in either case, would we say it is supported by the mechanics?
They have deliberately chosen mostly mechanics that do spatial things, right? Like portals and like pickaxes to get through walls. There's some slightly weird ones, right? Like the fighting thing is mostly there for the comedic purpose to subvert, but it is not really anything to do with the spatial puzzle.
But even that is still a spatial puzzle, because the enemies only step when you step. So it becomes, I want to shoot it, so I have to move here, so it moves. But if I move
and
here...
specifically, you can only shoot in specific directions, right?
Exactly.
That's what makes it the puzzle. You have to get them to stand in one of the directions you're allowed to shoot them in.
So
yeah, actually all of those mechanics really do support a primary mechanic if we call the primary mechanic is still spatial reasoning. And
even if we say, sure, it is discovery or exploration, or it is the joy of seeing what weird new thing am I going to use next. Again, the fact that they have this toolbox full of fun different mechanics actually works quite well. I don't know if it hits the excellent, because for excellent it needs to be an integrated set of mechanics, and like we've already said, they never end up using these mechanics together in interesting ways, partly because again they've gone for the discovery, a new thing every time, but as a result they're not integrated as such. But I think it still hits good. I would not have thought that before.
We both sound surprised, and I think we both are surprised that what it presents itself as and what it does are so different. So we kind of assumed that this was going to turn out to be a bad game because it looks like it's going to fail at being a spatial puzzle, but it turns out in a very subtle way that it does succeed at it.
Okie doke. So that brings us on to feedback.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is a problem, because in their feedback section, they haven't told us anything at all. They haven't got any feedback, or they haven't reported any feedback.
So that's a real shame, because that means we simply have to mark it down as absent. But other than that, I have had fun playing this. So I'm curious. So on our levels screen, I wonder if they're going to continue making this and add some more wacky levels to this.
Yeah, I mean, overall, you've given us a hard job here to mark this thing, because it's such a interestingly different piece of work. But as Thomas said, we really enjoyed looking through it, and I'll commend the students here for coming up with something that both does something so interesting and still manages to hit quite a lot of the mark scheme, even though if it perhaps misses a few little bits, like the risk and rewards there.
Okie doke. And I believe that is our last game for this batch. So we will say goodbye for now, and we will see you very soon in another video.